Welcome to the Lavaca County Today podcast. Your hosts are photographer, columnist, Murray Montgomery and graphic design artist, photographer, Michelle Price. This podcast is a review of the 4 weekly papers in Lavaca County, Texas. These papers include the Hallettsville Tribune-Herald, the Shiner Gazette, Yoakum Herald-Times, and the Moulton Eagle. Thanks for listening to this week's news review and please share. And now, here are your hosts, Murray and Michelle.
Hello everybody, this is Murray back with you on this edition of the News Review for Lavaca County. We are going to be reviewing the November 15th and 16th issues of our papers, all 4 papers in Lavaca County, Texas. And sadly, I am by myself and Michelle's not here. Now, Michelle's out on assignment, and so she had to miss this little broadcast, so we miss having her here, but we'll go right on. Naturally, with me doing it by myself, it's not going to be near as long, because I don't have nobody to talk to but you, and I hope you're listening, folks. We're going to start off with the Hallettsville Tribune-Herald, and we're going to start looking at the front page. And the front page has a story about the World War II veteran, Mr. Pekar, and there's a big picture of him here as he waits for the getting ready for the Veterans Day parade. And he's 96 years old, and he's one of the very few surviving World War II vets. He's a resident of Stevens Nursing Home, and we need to honor him and thank him for his service. Moving on from that, we've got a story about the recent election, and Jimmy Apples covered that, and he was talking about how the results turned out, and there were 13 of the 14 Texas constitutional amendments were all approved, except for number 13, and it didn't make it, but the rest of them did. Also, Jimmy's got another story about the court approving phases of the telecommunications warning system, so you might want to check that out. And we have a little short story by Managing Editor Bobby Haruska about the recent Lavaca County Jail inmate that walked away from his work detail. He was a trustee, but evidently not too trustworthy. But he's been caught, and he's back in the jail. And Jimmy's got another story about the Festival of Lights that's coming up on November the 25th, and I believe that's a week from Saturday. I believe that's correct. Whatever, it is the 25th of November. So that's always a big deal, and they like the courthouse, and it's a very festive and fun time to go down there and watch all the lights and bring your children and take pictures. It's just a great thing to witness. And we move on to our little buddy Henry Joe Yashik's Town Chatter. And Henry Joe's got a whole bunch of items in there. And he's also got his trivia question in there. You might want to check that out, see who won the trivia contest. And we have a write-up by Jimmy Apple for the Lions Club. Most all of the other things in here are social gatherings and different items like that. And we're not going to cover all of them because that would take entirely too much time. And Clayton's got a story about the Constitution essay contest winners. And you can read that and see what all and who won what. And we have our classifieds just like all our papers. And then there's an article about the community Thanksgiving services coming up by the Hallettsville Area Alliance of Churches, so you might want to take a look at that. But all these things are in your paper, and you don't need me to tell you what to read or what not to read. I think that we pretty well got it all covered. We're going to move on now to Little Chucky Groff's sports section. And the Sacred Heart Indians are to be congratulated for getting into the playoffs and going 10-0 during the regular season. And they're going to meet, according to Chuck, they're going to meet the Sacred Heart Munster in the area round of the TAPS Division 4 playoffs at Robinson High School Friday night. Kickoff time is 6 o'clock. There's been a little confusion from the time I read this until I did a little research today. And the Max Preps website is saying that this game's going to be played Saturday. So I'm not sure which is correct. I'm doing this podcast Thursday night, and we'll have to find out from Chuck tomorrow if it's Friday or Saturday. There's some confusion. I'm not sure who's right, who's wrong, because I found some other mistakes on some games that Max Preps had listed. So, it could be them. They could very well be wrong, and Chucky could be right. But at the time of this podcast, I don't really know for sure. But if it is indeed Saturday, I'm sure that we'll be posting on Facebook and everywhere else the corrections, if there is a correction to what Chuck has got. But needless to say, it's going to be a rough game, a tough game, and the Sacred Heart Indians are to be congratulated for their accomplishments this year. And their new head coach, Alex Seidler, he said that Sacred Heart Munster is an excellent football team, and they are 8-3 for a reason. So this ought to be a great game, and again, congratulations to the tribe on what they've accomplished this year. And hopefully we'll get this confusion straightened out, because I would hate for it to actually be Saturday and people, under the impression that it's Friday. So who knows? We'll find out for sure tomorrow, Friday. So let's move on now. And he's got all kind of pictures of the last game that the Brahmas played, and they played against Franklin, and I think Franklin was a defending state champ. I may be wrong on that, but if you read the article, I'm sure Chuck said. But Franklin beat the Brahmas now 2 years in a row, I believe. But the Brahmas did good. They had, I think they were 7-3 with their new head coach, and so check out that story. He's pretty well got that covered. And then in his column, Chuck talks about Jonathan Brooks at the University of Texas, a Hallettsville player that we all know and love around here, and he had an injury and tore his ACL on Saturday. So he's out for the season, but he was named to the mid-season All-American team and was in line for the Doak Walker Award that goes to the nation's leading rusher. So that's a sad thing for Jonathan, but we know he'll be back and raring to go next year. And Chuck's got the Harris's picks in here, and Columbus over Woodville, and Lorena over Westwood, Holland over Shiner, and you just need to check that out. Hallettsville and Yoakum were playing two of the top-rated teams in the state, and they gave it a good fight, but they fell by the wayside, and they'll just have to come get after them again next year. And he has a story about the fall soccer coming to an end, and so forth and so on. So just check it out. Be sure and check out Chuck's sports page and all the other items in here. There's quite a few leftover things from the Patriot Awards, Patriot Pen winners, and so I'm scrolling down through the through your classifieds, and we had quite a few classifieds. Then on the back page is my story about looking at Turkey Day traditions, and some of them are quite bizarre, and hopefully you'll enjoy that. I got a kick out of writing it. I put a little bit in there about what my family has had the traditions for Thanksgiving, and then I included some of these more strange, traditions. So check that out. We got Thanksgiving coming up just around the corner. So I hope you're all getting ready for it. I'm getting ready for it. I'm ready to eat a whole bunch and watch a little football. And that's what I'll be doing. So anyway, that's going to be all for the Hallettsville Tribune. And we're going to see here what Shiner got to offer. And I can't do it near as well as Michelle can, but we'll still take a look at it. On the front page of the Shiner Gazette, we have a story about the 11th annual Shiner Junior Livestock Show. It's also got a big picture about the Constitution essay contest winners, and that was written by Clayton. And then a story about the 52nd annual Cardinal Booster Club turkey shoot set for this Sunday. And then in all our papers, we've got a notice about the early printing for the Thanksgiving week. The change of the printing is going to be different. Your deadlines will be different. All your news items and advertisements will have to be turned in to all of our papers early. 3 p.m. They've got 3 p.m. for Thursday the 16th, 3 p.m. Thursday. That's right, for the 16th for the Molten Eagle. And all of them have got early deadlines, pretty much the same. Just check out your paper. You've probably already got it because we're running a little late with this podcast. So be sure and look at that, because if you want any advertising or what have you, Thanksgiving week, you'll have to get all that stuff in by that deadline. And Jimmy's story about the voting results is in Shiner. A well-earned pie in the face. Shiner Cub Scout Pack 31 had their popcorn party, and you need to check that out. Got these fellas on the picture, and they got popcorn going everywhere. Check it out. I'm sure that you'll enjoy reading that if you haven't already. And we're going to scroll through it. We had the Blue Mass was celebrated in Victoria by Bishop Brendan Cahill, and just all kind of different stories. Most of them on the inside now are school-related or socially related. And then we get to the sports page by our sports editor in Shiner is Mark Cluvy, and he did a great job writing about the Comanches win over Freer in the first round of the playoffs. Can't ever count the Comanches out, and they've come blasting back from some losses and are now in the playoffs. And then we have a story about a young lady that's going to play softball for Galveston College Whitecaps, and her name is Payden Vincic, and I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, and I'm sorry, Payden, if I was, but congratulations to you. Then we have the St. Paul All-District Awards, story about the Lady Comanche winning their season opening game, and it talks about the Shiner and Highland squaring off for the first time in a playoff. So we'll be looking forward to that, and we'll be pulling for the Comanches as usual. And we have a story about the Veterans Day guest speaker, retired Air Force Colonel Mike Cohen. I'm sure he did a great job. Unfortunately, I didn't get to hear him speak, but I know these veterans, but they do a good job with that. Scrolling on down, we're back on the classifieds here with Shiner. Looks like we have classifieds in all our papers, and you need to certainly check those out. But it's all in the classifieds, and we thank our advertisers as well. Like in Shiner, we have Patek's Grocery, and they have their big ad up and all their specials going on. So check out their advertising and do your Thanksgiving shopping with them. They got those good cooked spiral sliced hams. Boy, I love those things. So check it out. And we appreciate them being part of our newspaper family. So let's scroll on down now and see what else we got going on here. I believe we've just about wrapped her up for Shiner. In fact, we have. So check out the Shiner Gazette, friends, and think about old Michelle while you're checking out those ads, because we sure miss not having her here to help us do the Shiner Gazette. Yeah, that's just how I feel. Okay, we're going to move on now, and we're going to take a look at the Yoakum paper and see what they have going on. And let's see, we're going to check out the front page. And we've got a story here about the student council members addressing the school board about the campus beautification project that's going on. And we have another story about the Yoakum Heritage Museum and their Christmas tree forest exhibit. And Clayton Kelly also wrote this story about the student council and the campus beautification. And Jimmy's stories here about the election and so forth. We've got the police report, events, meeting notices, what have you. Sweet Home American Legion, got a picture of those folks at their meeting on November the 1st, and they presented their longevity awards to several of their members. And there's a color picture of that going on. And then there's another picture about Blue Santa, and the deadline for the Blue Santa program is the 23rd. So you need to check that story out if you haven't already. More about the essay contest winners written by Clayton. And then we get to the sports over there in Yoakum, and they had another, well, I shouldn't say another because this was a playoff. This was a big-time playoff. Like their brothers over here in Hallettsville, they came up a little short against these highly ranked schools, but they gave it a good fight, just like the Brahmins did, and they lost in this by-district playoff, and they played that game at College Station, I believe. Yeah, Consolidated Stadium. And we're going to thank Alvin Gomez for that story. Did a great job. And we've got some great color pictures in here, and we've got the Lady Bulldogs basketball schedule, and all that's in your paper. So check it out, friends. It's like all our papers, we try to cover everything and be on top of everything. And I think all in all, we do a pretty good job. So I'd give ourselves a few kudos. But check out your Yoakum paper. I'm scrolling through it now, and as with the other papers, they have their classifieds going on, and they're pretty full of classifieds. Like I said before, you can find just about anything in there that you might find that you need, or just look at some things you don't need and think about later. You might need them then. Anyway, and we've got the story here about the veterans being honored for their service in Yoakum, and had speakers and the kids, and a good deal all the way around. So that's going to wrap Yoakum up, and I'm going to move on now to what my ex-guest host or co-host Hans Lammerman used to call the Molten Eagle. Hans always called it the cleanup batter. I guess you can call it that, but it's just as equally interesting to read as all the rest of them. Anyway, it's here, and big story on the front page again by Bobby Hariska, our managing editor. Bobby covered the Veterans Day activities in Moulton, and he's got several color pictures there, some good things going on. Got the flags, got the speaker, the band, got it all. And then Clayton wrote a story about the Moulton ISD improving the security and the safety on their campus, which we're glad to see that going on, keeping those kiddos safe. You know, that old saying, if you see something, say something. Keep that in mind, friends, because we live in a different world than what I grew up in. It's a sad time for that, and we just have to stick together and be on the lookout, especially around our schools. And thankfully, we got these campus police now and police departments that's keeping a good eye out to protect our kiddos. And we have a sports story in the Molten Eagle about the Moulton Junior High basketball teams. Both girls and boys defeated Runge, and that's a good story there. We have the honor rolls and honorable mention for second 6 weeks is included. And I believe we got them all in. I was putting it together, and I tried my best to get them all. If I missed any, give us a call at the office in Hallettsville, and we'll be sure we'll get any that was left out. We'll get it in the next paper. So that's basically about all for the cleanup batter. It's short but sweet, and I think you'll enjoy reading that. Got all the area meetings. On page 2, we have a story about the St. Nicholas Ministry and how they've helped thousands of people over the years, and got a big picture of all them with the gifts, and Father John and Pastor Herb Beyer, or Master Senior John Peters, all in the story and in the picture. And then we have a couple of pictures about the Moravia KJZT making donations to the different organizations. They presented a check to some of the fire departments and to the People Helping People Community Project. So we appreciate them. We appreciate all you folks that get out and do these things and support all our organizations around Lavaca County. So I guess that's going to pretty well wrap it up for this solo run on the podcast. Yeah, that's from Michelle. She's not here, but she's working. She's on assignment over in her hometown of Shiner, and you'll see the results of her work in the next paper. But before I close this out, I want to thank the staff members at our papers. And I want to thank Ani, Zach, our office manager at the Hallettsville Tribune, for putting this list together so that I wouldn't leave anybody out. So in Hallettsville and Moulton, this is your staff members: Chuck Groff, Jimmy Apple, yours truly, Henry Joe Yashik, Larry Rothbauer, Ricky Rothbauer, Ani Zach, Michelle Price, Margaret Posey, Bobby Hariska, and Clayton Kelly. And we jump on over to the Shiner Gazette. You got Janet Job, Mark Luby, Bobby Hariska, and Clayton again. Over in Yoakum, you got Nadine Rex, Allison Hobner, Bobby Hariska, Clayton Kelly, Raymond Rosas, and Alvin Gomez. And our other paper, our sister paper over in Caldwell County, the Luling Newsboy and Signal, you've got Nicole Smith and Bobby Hariska. And then we want to wish happy Thanksgiving to our owners, the Price family, Buddy Sloan, and the rest. So to all you folks, I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope you're able to be with your family and to celebrate together and be grateful for the things that you have. With that being said, friends, I'm going to tell you goodbye. We're not going to have a podcast next week, Thanksgiving week. Michelle and myself will be taking that Thanksgiving Day off, and then we'll see you the following week. But that's all for now, and we'll see you then. Happy Thanksgiving. Goodbye, everybody.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of the Lavaca County, Texas News Review. Our hosts and guests will provide you with all the area news and sports in Lavaca County. Thanks so much for joining us, and we hope you will be back for the next podcast. And in the meanwhile, we are going to rock and roll on out of here. Goodbye, everybody.